A small town suddenly cut off from the outside world by a mysterious and impenetrable dome. As chaos ensues, secrets are uncovered, and the town's residents must grapple with their new reality. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Movie Coach. Today, we're diving into science fiction mystery drama Under the Dome. This sci-fi movie is directed by David Barrett. The story begins with a boy named Barbie who was burying a dead body in the forest. Barbie was not a local resident of there, and seeing the injury on Barbie's forehead, it seemed that he would have had a lot of fighting with the dying fellow. After burying the man, Barbie starts getting out of town in his car, but then he is confronted by the car of a police officer named Sheriff. Seeing him, he gets a little scared, diverting his attention from driving, but somehow he escapes from the police. But then some cows were standing in the middle of the road. To save them, Barbie folds his car completely, allowing him to reach a field full of cows. This hurt him a bit. A few seconds later, the ground begins to move vigorously due to the earthquake, that suddenly one thing from the sky falls in front of Barbie, and everything calms down. Barbie sees that the cow was cut into two pieces from that thing falling from the sky. When he starts touching that thing, he realizes that it is an invisible wall that was so sharp that many houses are also cut in two parts because of it had gone. Then a boy named Joe comes there and asks him if you are okay or not. He too is shocked to see that invisible wall. On the other hand, the sheriff and Linda receive the news that the power supply of that entire town has been cut. The phone line is shut down and the internet is also not working. Even all satellite connections stopped working. That's when a plane flying over the city crashes after hitting that invisible wall, seeing which people were even more nervous, and it is confirmed that it is not just an invisible wall, but a round-shaped dome, which has covered half the city. On the other side, we see the Phil and its assistant Dodie on a radio station who were trying to bring the signal. Both of them were a little confused as to why the sudden signal went away, so Phil thinks this is a good chance, his radio rating to high, so both of them take to fix the signal. At the same time, a fire truck was coming from the other side of the dome. Seeing the Barbie pointing truckman towards this invisible wall, stop him and avoid crashing. After a while, he comes to some police to invest, but it was not his thing to understand this invisible dome. At the same time, a city council man named Big Jim also arrives, but he also does not understand anything about this dome. Here the police get information that all the paths leading to that city have been closed because that dome is causing a lot of accidents. A little away from it, a boy named Junior was being intimate with a girl named Angie. Angie was a nurse by profession and was also an older sister of Joe. After being intimate, Junior tells Angie that I love you very much, but tells her that she doesn't feel anything like this for him. This breaks Junior's heart and begins to argue between them. His debate here is so heightened that Angie slaps him and leaves. We then see a family of 3 people, with Mother Carolini, Alice, and their 2 daughter Nori going towards the same town. He was not informed that Dom had covered that town. On the other hand, we see an investigative reporter named Julia, who had a great name in the city of Chester. One day, a woman calls him to give him a secret news. The woman tells him that she has seen a propane-filled truck going to that weak Chester mill, and according to that, in such a large quantity of propane-like fuel in the city, coming can be part of a dangerous plan. Julia promises with the woman to investigate about this, but she is unable to pay attention to it due to being more busy in her work. At the same time, Big Jim reached at radio station and announces emergency Caroline, who was coming to town with Alice and Nori, hears this announcement, but they think it is some kind of advertising, so she does not pay attention to this announcement. Gives in his car little be avoid from colliding with the dome as a truck coming from the other side before it crashes into the dome, seeing which she immediately brakes her car. Seeing such a large incident, Nori begins to attack, making her unconscious. But before she faints, she says about a pink star. Now from here, Nori is quickly taken to the hospital, which was filled with people injured by the events in the town. At the same time, Julia and Barbie were also bringing the injured to the hospital. Julia's husband was also a doctor in this hospital. She goes to meet him, but at that time her husband was not in the hospital. At the hospital, it turns out on Julie that her husband never worked on Sunday, but he was always lying to Julia. Outside the hospital, we see Barbie and Angie meeting. Seeing the two together creates a distinct irritation inside the Junior. At the same time, the border of the town is sealed by soldiers. Many scientists and experts also do not know the real reason for this trouble, but a few hours later, Big Jim meets Sharif to talk about propane. His talk here tells us that he knew a little bit about this dome beforehand, but he was not talking openly on it. Barbie had to stay in that town for a day, but he has no place to stay. The place 105, so he decides to spend the night in his car. That's when Junior comes to here and tells him to stay away from Angie. Gently, his talk turns into a threat, but at the same time, Julie arrived here and they stop quarreling with each other. The scene shifts from here, and we see that some teenagers were partying at one place, careless about such conditions in the the town, Joe was also among them. Joe starts talking to Aeon Boy about this situation there. But suddenly Joey fall here and starts speaking about Pink Star, like Nori had spoken before. While Joey's sister Angie is alone at home, then suddenly the Junior enters her house and kidnaps her and takes her to his father's broken shelter. Here he tells her that I know about this dome covering the city. Here Angie also know from him that Big Jim is Junior's father. Junior also tells Angie that his father was always concerned about the safety of his family, so he made this shelter for the family. At the same time, Julia brings Barbie to her home. Suddenly Bobby's eyes are on his husband's photo, and he realizes that this is the man he killed in the morning. On the other hand, Linda and the sheriff were keeping an eye on all the vehicles so that no one accidentally hit this dom. Then suddenly the sheriff gets an attack and he dies there. Now scene shift in flashback, and we are shown in the morning when Bobby came to visit Julia's husband, who was a doctor in town. Some payment is spoken to him, but the doctor refuses to give him the payment, because of which both of them get into a fight and accidental Barbie shoots him. Barbie knew that even though he accidentally killed him, but he must be punished for this. To avoid this, he buried his body in the forest. At the present, Barbie wakes up in the morning and see that his neck chain is missing, so he asks Julia about it. Julia tells him that she will find his chain and give it to him, but then Barbie remembers that the chain had fallen into the cabin where he killed his husband. There Joey was with his friend Ben, who helped him during Caesar's last night. Ben asks Joey about Pink Star, but Joey couldn't remember anything about this. At the same time, Dodie in the radio station is successful in contacting people outside the dome with the help of a special device. She could hear soldiers talking among themselves, but she didn't say anything to them. Soldiers were also confused about what this invisible wall is. On the other hand, Big Jem is having breakfast sitting in the restaurant. That Linda comes there and tells him about the sheriff's death, whereby those people immediately go to the bunker to bury the dead body. There, Angie tries her best to call someone in shelter for help, but she is not successful. That's when Joey comes there and ties him to the bed through the chain. At the same time, Big Jim brings Lister with him, who was the sheriff's friend. The death of the sheriff makes him very sad and upset. When Linda is not around them, Lister and Jim talk about the propane import that took place last month, that the three of them was involved in the propane import, and they did not tell to town people. The death of the sheriff confirmed that he would not be able to tell anyone about their involvement, which was also good news for him. Later that day, Linda arrives at the police station, seeing that Big Jim is looking for something in the sheriff's office. As Linda asks, Jim tells him that he is looking for the papers of the sheriff's to make a will, but in reality he came there to find the papers associated with propane's import, which could get him and Lester in trouble. He immediately comes out and tells the Lister that I think the paper will be in sheriff's house, and asks Lister to bring these papers immediately from sheriff's house. Meanwhile, Julia quickly goes to at the radio station, where she know that those people can hear the conversations of soldiers standing outside the dome via device. Upon listening to him, Julia realizes that they are trying to dig out the land and take out the dome, but they are unable to succeed in this task. Julia then spreads the dome news throughout the town via radio, causing fear among people and causing panic. While Joey and Ben see scientists doing their work near the border, scientists see what effect water has over the dome, but they did not understand much, so that they could not reach any conclusion. At the same time, Joey sees that this dome is like a sieve. He tells Ben that a slight amount of water in this dome can cross. On the other hand, Barbie goes to find chain in the doctor's cabin. There he finds this chain, but same time Junior comes there and sees him. Junior asks him if you slept with Angie. Here Barbie thinks that maybe he has seen him looking for a chain, and that's why he attacked on Junior. So he starts beating Junior very badly. We see Lester arriving at the sheriff's house to find the papers of the propane import. After some time, he gets the papers in the drawer, then he burns them. When he starts going from there, his footing causes paper fire on the curtains of the house, due to which flames spread throughout the house and the whole house starts burning, seeing which soon many people gather here and try to extinguish the fire. But extinguishing a fire without fire brigade was impossible. If the temperature inside the dome have increased a lot, then many people will be died, so everyone gets extinguished the fire. Barbie leads the people to extinguish the fire. When Linda hears Lester's screaming from inside the house, she goes in and drags him out and sends him to the doctor for treatment. People here do not succeed after an hour in extinguishing the fire, but the fire more flares up. Eventually, Jim brings the loader and drops the house, then the fire goes extinguished. After this, all the 8 tired people gather. Among them, a policeman named Paul says that we all will never get out of this dome because the smoke that has come out of this dome fire is out, not letting go. He says that we are all going to die inside this dome. Saying this, he shoots in the air, which collides with Dom and hit another policeman, and he dies immediately. Paul is arrested here. Joey and his friends go for skating at nighttime. Nori comes to Joe and tells him that she needs to charge the phone. Joey takes him to his house because he had a generator in his house that was in the numbered houses of that town. Linda brings Paul to jail there. Some people were protesting outside the police station there. Actually, those people were opposing the poor system of police. Jim calms them all down by saying that they will all be helped when needed. Paul gets a heart attack after being locked into a lockup, Linda running in to help him, but then she realizes that Paul was just acting. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Paul pushes her and locks her in a lockup and runs away from there. Here in the bunker, Junior again goes to Angie. Angie understood that if she had to get out of here, she would have to trap Junior in a false trap, so she shares her childhood memories with him. When both of them used to go to a closed tunnel and say that the dome may not have had any effect on the tunnel, then those people can go out. Angie here thinks that now he is trapped in her love trap, so maybe he leaves him, but nothing like this happens. Junior alone plans to go to that tunnel. At the same time, Jim sees Linda locked in a lockup instead of Paul when he arrives at the police station. He immediately kicks her out of the lockup. They were known that Paul has taken a rifle and some bullets with him. Linda immediately sets out towards the forest in search of him because she knew that Paul often went towards the hunting forest. That's where Jim prepares a team to catch him. Caroline, sitting there in the restaurant, was worried about Nori as she stayed at Joe's house last night without telling both of her mothers. Jim asks his Ask people to join his team, and he also asked the Barbie to walk with him as he was proved to be a good leader in extinguishing the fire. After this, those people start going into the forest. On the way, Barbie shows her qualities and tells them that he has also lived in the military. On the other hand, Julia sees Junior going towards the tunnel. She stops him and asks where he's going by packing the bag. But Junior was in a hurry, and he was also nervous. He says that I am just going to meet my friend nearby. This increases Julia's suspicion on him even more, and she follows him to the tunnel. There, Joey and Nori were having breakfast together at Joey's house. Joey had never been alone with a girl before, so feeling a little nervous. While Nori was the confident and was also the spot answer in the conversation. That's when Ben brings two girls with him to his house. Ben was supposed to use the generator to arrest those who had to charge the phone, for which Joey allows Ben a little nasty, because the generator in that town was a very useful thing, and thus it did not seem right to miss it. There in the forest, we see that the search team finds Paul, but at the same time, Paul shoots a boy in the leg. The other boy also stops there to handle him, while Jim and Barbie run behind the Paul. On the other hand, the Junior reaches the last end of the tunnel, reaching where he realizes that Dome has also covered the tunnel. They get very close to the wall, causing his flashlight to burn. That's when Julia comes there and warns him. Junior gets very angry at Julia because she was following him. From this, Junior starts punching the invisible wall that Julia stops him. Then both sit and talk. Julia tells him that she is trapped in this useless job of a journalist because of a mistake made in her past. There, Joey's house is filled with people who came to use his generator for their own needs. A rogue boy tries to recover money from people in exchange for using generators that were not his own, but no one had the courage to speak against him. Seeing this, Nori go ahead, but the case become more problematic. But before something goes wrong, the light goes away. Nori is very happy that Joey supported her in that debate. At the same time, Barbie and Jim reach Paul, but Paul had taken out his rifle, which was about to kill Jim when Linda came from behind and shot him. On other side goes to Caroline Joy's house and meets her daughter. She said Nori that she should become a little responsible. Joey and Nori hold each other's hands after hearing his scolding, and extreme sparks are produced and both begin to tremble, and both were talking about a pink star together. There, Junior goes to Angie in the shelter, but this time she had a first aid kit in her hand. Angie strips the ointment on her wounds and secretly keeps Caesar with her. We see Julia and Barbie return home after a day's fatigue, but since listening to Junior, Julia was suspicious about Barbie. And when Barbie goes to take a bath, Julia starts checking his luggage. I hope you like these episodes about this masterpiece show. If you want explanations of others' episode, please tell me in the comments section. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel, and we will meet in the next video with a new story.